Welcome in to PrepAquatics.com. I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylarPrep. Getting ready to start the second half of the season, and gonna give out the mid-season predictions here, event by event. A lot of them were quite dicey, and I think one thing that I learned is that there's a multitude of kids that can swim 3 or 4 races and potentially score. And so a lot of this could change because of that. Not just that we have kids with versatility, but that a lot of these races are going to be weak, especially in the bottom 6. But I mean, the 500 even looks weak in the top 6. That people could jump around potentially from some of these freestyle races. Let's start with the medley relay. I've got a top 6 of Stevenson, Hinsdale Central, New Trier, Waubonsie Valley, St. Charles North, and Mundelein. Again, I think Stevenson should win all 3 relays. I have them winning the state meet in pretty dominant fashion. Basically, the most dominant win we've seen since New Trier. Big dynasty run came to an end. The Malone, so not the Scheinfeld year. That one was actually pretty close with LT, all things considered. But the previous run with Brodecki and Malone. And Hinsdale Central, New Trier, again, I think both these teams are going to be heard from at the end of the year. They've both been banged up at times, and I think they've got the talent and the coaches that know how to get it done at the end of the year to really show out at the state meet. Waubonsie, again, I think Waubonsie is probably going to struggle in the relay that Deshpandi's not in. And New Trier is probably going to struggle in the sprint relay because their guys, a lot of their guys are better at 200s of stroke and distance freestyle, and so the medley and the 400 relay are definitely going to be the better relays for both these schools. St. Charles North, again, whatever relays Filipovic swims, I think they're going to have an excellent chance to get top 6. Kane Kriz is somebody that should be an individual scorer as well, and that makes up a really strong middle 100 of the medley for them. And then Mundelein, they've got a couple sprinters that are obviously showing out, Anastos and Fathala, most notably. And I think they get the job done. Bottom 6, I have LT, Oak Park, Plainfield, Barrington, Evanston, Naperville Central. This is not one of the more talented Naperville Central teams, but again, I think this relay is definitely in a range of scoring, and I just see Mike Adams finding a way to get it done. This is the best Evanston team we've had in quite a few years, and they should be in the mix to score potentially all 3 relays. Barrington, again, they just don't have a ton of backup for O'Leary, but O'Leary should give them open water against virtually anybody in the state in their prelim heat, and so that could be a pretty big advantage to those other guys. Plainfield's posting some really fast times right now, and Oak Park and LT I think are both talented teams that have at least one superstar, and they could, either one of them I could see potentially moving into the top 6 and bumping somebody out. 200 free, I've got Mike Flynn. I actually got Mike Flynn as the double state champion, 200, 500. I thought those were 2 of the easier picks that I did. Nolan Miller, Champaign Central, Benjamin Louis, Oak Park, Aiden Dunn, Nequa, Aaron Martin, Evanston, Tyson Tucci, Normal Community is my top 6. Johnny Farber, Stevenson, Aiden Music, New Trier, Lucas Simic, Niles West, Joey Countryman, Rivas, Ward Wilson, New Trier, Jack Burke, Plainfield is my bottom 6. Again, it's really hard, because even if you look back at the most recent state meet we had, which was 2 years ago, hardly any of these names appear. And so the girls' meet was a little like this, but boys is even worse, because boys do so much more development in their upperclassmen years on average, that obviously all these kids that are still in high school now were freshmen and sophomores back then, and only really the elite of the elite, like Fathala and Filipovic, were really getting second swims at state as sophomores and or freshmen in some cases. In the IM, this is one that I think is pretty wide open. I have Camden Swigart from Normal U High winning. He's the only swimmer that I researched that's been under 50. Jake Regenwater, Urbana University, I talked about him and his teammate earlier this year when we were reviewing some preseason rankings. Jaden Gamilla, Matias, I have third. Andrew Kelly, Loyola, 4. Jeff Howe, Hinsdale Central, 5. Colin Zhang, Stevenson, 6. And then in the bottom, Camden Taylor, Rockford East. He's another one of these guys that could potentially swim 3 or 4 different things. Brady Johnson, West Chicago, Jaden Heinlein, Friend, Nate Harris, Hinsdale Central, Caden Hardy, Evanston, and Tim Hayes, Prospect. The IM looks like an event that has decent depth, but the top end is not very strong. Whereas I would argue that the 200 is kind of the opposite. The top, and I'm not saying it was going to go like 135, but I think we could have a couple people maybe go 138. But the bottom doesn't look nearly as tough as the IM does. 50 free, and so we've talked about some of the guys. Alec Filipovic, in my opinion, if he enters it, could win the 50, the 100. All 300s of stroke and the IM. So it really comes down to what he wants to swim. Now, I've got him swimming the 50 in the fly because that's what he swam 2 years ago. However, it would make plenty of sense for him to not swim the fly because Kane Kriz is in the fly, and why would you want to put your 2 best kids in the same event? Now, that means he's probably going to swim the 100, just based on the fact of relays. But yeah, I mean, Alan Filipovic is the swimmer that if you're a top swimmer that has event versatility, you want to avoid Filipovic. The rest of my 50 free top 12 is Connor Goria York, Fathala from Mundelein, Lachlan Andrew Loyola, David Cohan Stevenson, Jacob Drazid Lake Park. I believe all 6 of those top 6 guys, and maybe even Brandon Zhang Stevenson, who I have 7th, but definitely the top 6 I believe were all under 21 previously. But Zhang, like I said, 7. Andrew Gilbert, Hinsdale Central, 8. Bobby Sayer, Downer South, 9. Thomas Rotatori, Oak Park, 10. Nico Tadic, Niles West, 11. And Kevin Obachi, Highland Park, 12th. Again, 50 is always a crapshoot, but this is, other than Filipovic, going to be mostly all new faces. Diving, again, this was even harder to speculate on. Obviously, there's probably going to be some freshmen here crashing the party. There's usually 1 or 2 that I just don't know about. I did my best to research some in-season results, but a lot of even big invites on Meet Mobile that have diving listed don't always post the results. I've got Harrison Dolan, Riverside Brookfield, Jack White, Stevenson, Aria Lesh, Evanston, Nick Tarantino, Glenbrook South, Blake Vanderjukt, Warren, Noam Kolbach, Highland Park, Dan Silverstein, Stevenson, Bruno Carrillo, Oak Forest, Lance Kurzawinski, Schaumburg, Jack Hamilton, Ridgewoods, John Urban, New Trier, and Connor Furlong, Hinsdale Central as the top 12 in diving. In the fly, like I said, I have Filipovic, Andrew Lynn, Urbana University, Griffin O'Leary, Barrington, Josh Song, Stevenson. All those guys are 48s. Ben Louis, Oak Park, Jeff Howe, Hinsdale Central. Everyone in the top 6 been under 50 before. Matt Gibson, New Trier, Ben Castro, Cary Grove, Nolan Miller, Champaign Central, King Chris, St. Charles North, Nolan Dietz, Pontiac, Emmett Harmon, Oak Park is my bottom 6. Again, Filipovic, probably, if he's going to move out of one, probably most likely going to be the fly. I guess if he decides he wants to swim the IM, he could stay in the fly. He's obviously going to move out of the 50 in that case. But again, if USA Time Search the kid, he's really is a force to be reckoned with just about everywhere. I mean, I'd be shocked if he swam the breaststroke, but I mean, even the backstroke, if he has a good swim, you could see him making a run at the state record. And I don't think he would ever swim the backstroke. So, and again, there'd be a lot of years where he'd have a chance to win all these races, but very few years he'd be as big a favorite in this many races as he would be. 100 free. So again, this group would potentially, if any of them could potentially swim the fly, if Filipovic moves. Connor Groya, York, Fatalo, Mundelein, Will Gallagher, Hinsdale South, Arnaud Deshpande, Wabanzi Valley, Johnny Farber, Stevenson, Aaron Martin, Evanston is my top 6. Bottom 6, Lachlan Andrew, Loyola, Camden Swigart, U-High, Jack Burke, Plainfield, Andrew Gilbert, Hinsdale Central, Kevin Obachi, Highland Park, Bobby Sayer, Downer South. Again, some of these guys could definitely go different events. Swigart, U-High certainly is one of those. Lachlan Andrew. Again, the 50, I think he's a lock for. I think the 100 probably makes the most sense. But if I recall from looking at his times, maybe the backstroke is a possibility, but that would obviously put a bigger impact on relays. Again, Loyola could go 3 relays. And had Andrew go the 50 and Andrew Kelly go. The problem with that is Andrew Kelly's best race appears to be the 100 back, especially within the context of this meet. And so it would be tough to ask him to do that, especially because of where obviously the backstroke fits within the relays, even with the break, even with the warm down pool. It's still a tough program to do. 500 free, I mentioned I have Flynn as a double state champion. Tyson Tucci, Normal Community, Aiden Dunn, Nequo, Ward Wilson, New Trier, Josh Fujimoto, Stevenson, Braxton, Bogos, Hinsdale Central. Bogo's lifetime best is 437, so that really, that's a really weak top 6. But the reason I feel somewhat comfortable picking it is generally people aren't trying to switch to the 500 free. Now, it's not to say nobody will, but a lot of these guys, they have no other choice. The 500 free is by far their best event and their best chance to place the highest. Flynn can certainly swim the 100 free and have a shot at the top 6, but he'd have no shot to win. And so that's why he's going to be in there. Tucci, same deal. Those guys are 2 seconds apart. Significantly clear from everybody else. But someone like Aaron Martin from Evanston, I can see swimming the 500, but he's got, I would think, a good chance to score top 6 in the 100. So why would they put him through this when there's nobody else that I can see from Evanston scoring the 100 free? But again, it's possible. 200 relay, Stevenson, Loyola, LT, Hinsdale Central, Mundelein, St. Charles North is my top 6. Plainfield, Oak Park, New Trier, Evanston, Glenbrook North, St. Charles East is my bottom 6. Stevenson and Loyola have already both been 126. And, so that's why they're the top 2. Hinsdale Central, their 200 relay doesn't make any sense. I, I put LT ahead of them, but talent-wise on paper, they appear to be far more talented than LT, but they've just not put it together, especially when you look at the times they've gone in the medley and the 400 relay. Their 200 relay is really lagging behind, and usually it's their 400 relay that's lagging behind historically, and so that's my big hesitation with that relay. Backstroke, Griffin O'Leary, Arnav Deshpande, I think are kind of separated from the pack here. O'Leary's already going 48s. Again, definitely makes you say, I mean, this kid should undoubtedly break the state record considering the facility he's going to be doing it in, and it'd be basically no time drop at all if he doesn't. Considering he's going to be moving to a faster pool. That's the thing. Obviously we just saw with the girls, all the records that got broken. This is the first time that everyone across the board is going to be moving to a faster facility from sectionals to state. The rest of my top 6 is Brady Johnson, West Chicago, Andrew Lynn, Urbana University, Josh Song, Stevenson, Andrew Kelly, Loyola. Bottom 6, Dylan Bureau, Wheaton, Matt Gibson, New Trier, Jaden Heinlein, Friend, Michael Wyrocki, Stevenson, Quinn Collins, LT, Lubomir Popovic, Maine South. Again, the backstroke was one that it was getting dicey trying to fill it out in the bottom 6. And, you know, there's probably going to be a couple races like that. There's also probably a couple kids floating around out there that are individuals that aren't on teams that I haven't seen results of that could beef up some of these races. Breaststroke. Will Gallagher, Hinsdale South, really looks like a runaway winner here. Again, unless Filipovic shows up there. Colin Zhang, Stevenson, Jake Regenwater, Urbana University, Jaden Gamilla, Matia Valley, Jackson Hogue, Glimerick South, Caden Hardy, Evanston is the rest of my top 6. The breaststroke looks pretty tough, to be honest. Aiden Foley, who I have 7th, is a 56. So, I mean, swap some of these guys around, if you will, but basically, somebody that's been 56 is going to be in the bottom, unless someone moves races. Kane Kriz, St. Charles North, Nate Harris, Hinsdale Central, Philip Stempian, Lake Park, Red Ricciardi, New Trier, and Michael Romero Mundelein is the rest of my top 12. But that top 6, the breaststroke and the 50 might be the 2 toughest top 6s to make this year. And then the 400 relay, Stevenson, Loyola, Hinsdale Central, New Trier, Evanston, Oak Park is my top 6, and then LT, Matia, Wabanzi, Barrington, Ignatius, and Nequa is my bottom 6. Again, you're already starting to see some separation with some of those top teams. Stevenson, pretty much across the board. Loyola's free relays have been lights out so far. Again, Hinsdale Central, to me has been clearly the second most impressive team in the state after Stevenson, except for their 200 relay. It's really confusing to me right now. So, projected top 10, Stevenson 206, 90-point win here, easy state championship for them. Just based on the way they're swimming right now and the way the state shapes up, it would be an all-time collapse for them to not win state this year, especially when I have them outscoring everybody in diving. I have them getting 20 just in diving, and so that's actually their highest point total in any event that's not a relay. Hinsdale Central 116. New Trier 93, Loyola 90. With Stevenson eating up so many of those points and so many points being taken by teams that are kind of out of the woodwork that aren't normally kind of in the mix, really is going to make this what looks like a cheap trophy here for second and third. I mean, to have a trophy in the 90s. I mean, it's not that it's never happened before. I mean, within the last 10 years, we had, again, in the beginning, I talked about Malone and Grodecki. Malone and Mike Mangan's senior year, Hinsdale Central and Lake Forest got the second and third place trophies. They were both in the 90s. But it doesn't happen that often that you win a trophy in the 90s. But again, 3 points separating New Trier and Loyola. And then St. Charles North 78, again, 32 points from Filipovic there, plus relays and Kane Kriz. Oak Park 64, Mundelein 63, Evanston 62, LT 61. And then I was just counting to see if I got into 10. And then Wabanzi 54, I have 10th. And then Urbana University 49, I have 11th. Here's the thing with Urbana. I mean, obviously they probably have after Stevenson, maybe when you think about all the kids that they have, the best 1-2 punch in the whole state. They just don't have anybody else. So you would expect if those kids show up with their good stuff, again, they're basically training club year round. You always question whether or not a club coach is going to taper you for a state meet or they're not your coach, because a representative from the school is technically your coach at the meet itself, as opposed to getting you ready for some junior national meet in the spring. But they could backdoor a top 10 trophy, or not top 10 trophy, a top 10 spot, even though I'm always unclear on if schools like this are even eligible for team points, because like if you go to their school website, they don't even recognize boys swimming as a sport. So very interesting that they have 2 kids that are at this level at this school. Just outside my top 10, I've got Barrington at 40, Mattia 33, Fenwick 32, Plainfield 27, Neuqua 25, Normal 22. Again, most of those schools are just one individual. Obviously, Fenwick, double state champion Mike Flynn. If Fenwick can put together anything on the relays, they can make a dark horse run at the top 10. But when you think about how good Flynn is, it's a little surprising we haven't seen their relays pop something that's caught people's eye. Anyway, Evanston Invitational this week. It's always an interesting one. A lot of teams. Stevenson should run away and hide with this one, at least from the Illinois schools. Needless to say, I do not have Arrowhead well scouted, and they always come down for this one. A lot of times they are in tech suits, so we will see how that all plays out. But it's also an interesting format. They score everything based on PowerPoints as opposed to normal invite or state meet scoring, 16 to 1 for the top 12. So a lot of times it just pays to post crazy good times. St. Charles North's there, so Filipovic is probably going to be worth a lot of points twice, more than anyone else. And but Stevenson, especially with how fast they swim all year, this meet should really be right up their alley. So get ready for the second part of the season. We're almost through this winter break lull, and we're about to get back to big time invites really the rest of the year. Again, we're basically 10 days away from New Trier Relays, and then once you hit New Trier Relays, you're basically 2 weeks away from conference meets starting. So it does seem like state is a long ways away, and we've basically only had December meets to this point. But these weeks, once the calendar turns, always seem to go a lot quicker. As always, you can email me, skylarprepaquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @SkylarPrep. And we'll be back next week recapping all the action at Evanston and looking ahead to Nature Relays here at prepaquatics.com.